Have you ever felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, wondering if God truly hears your cries for help? If so, you're not alone. Many of us have faced moments of doubt and uncertainty. But today, I have a powerful message for you from Psalm 50, a promise that can transform your life. God's promises are steadfast and true, and He is always ready to rescue us in our times of trouble. As we dive into Psalm 50:15, we'll uncover the profound assurance that God hears us and is eager to deliver us from our struggles. Stay with me as we explore this powerful verse and share a heartfelt prayer to strengthen your faith and renew your spirit. Let's journey together into the depths of God's unwavering love and discover how His deliverance can bring us peace and joy beyond measure. Number 1, understanding God's promise. Psalm 50:15 says, "Call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me." This verse is a beacon of hope and assurance in the midst of life's storms. It is a divine promise that offers us comfort and strength, reminding us that we are never alone in our struggles. God, in His infinite love and mercy, extends His hand to us, inviting us to call upon Him in our times of trouble. This invitation is not just a fleeting offer, but a steadfast promise from our Creator, who knows us intimately and cares for us deeply. The promise of deliverance in Psalm 50:15 is profound and multifaceted. It reassures us that God is not distant or indifferent to our suffering. Instead, He is actively involved in our lives, ready to intervene and provide the help we need. This divine promise means that no matter the severity of our troubles, we have a powerful ally who can bring us through the darkest valleys. It offers us hope that transcends our circumstances, giving us the strength to persevere and trust in God's unfailing love and power. When God promises to deliver us, it is not merely about removing us from our troubles, but also about transforming us through them. He uses our struggles to build our faith, refine our character, and draw us closer to Him. This process of deliverance is both a rescue and a journey of spiritual growth. It teaches us to rely not on our own strength, but on God's omnipotence and grace. As we experience His deliverance, our faith is strengthened, and we come to understand the depth of His commitment to us. Furthermore, the latter part of Psalm 50:15, "And you shall glorify me," emphasizes the ultimate purpose of God's deliverance. When we call upon God and He delivers us, our natural response should be one of gratitude and praise. Our deliverance becomes a testimony of God's goodness and faithfulness, encouraging others and bringing glory to His name. It is through our trials and God's subsequent deliverance that we have the opportunity to witness to His greatness and proclaim His love to the world. In conclusion, Psalm 50:15 is a powerful reminder of God's unwavering promise to deliver us in our times of trouble. It offers us hope and strength, assuring us that we are not alone. By understanding and embracing this promise, we can face our challenges with renewed faith and confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. As we call upon Him and experience His deliverance, we are not only rescued, but also transformed, enabling us to glorify Him through our lives. Number 2, calling upon God in trouble. Jeremiah 33:3 declares, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." This powerful verse underscores the importance of calling upon God, especially in times of trouble. When we reach out to God in prayer, we are demonstrating our faith and trust in His power and willingness to intervene in our lives. It is an acknowledgement that we need His divine help and guidance, and that we believe He will respond to our cries for assistance. Calling upon God is not merely a ritualistic act. It is a profound expression of our dependence on Him. It shows that we trust in His wisdom and power to handle the situations that overwhelm us. By turning to God in our times of trouble, we are affirming our belief that He is both willing and able to provide the answers and solutions we seek. This act of faith is crucial as it aligns our hearts with God's promises and opens us up to receive His divine intervention. Jeremiah 33:3 also reveals that God's response to our prayers often includes revealing great and unsearchable things that we do not know. This means that when we call upon God, we not only seek His immediate help, but also His deeper wisdom and understanding. In our moments of distress, God can provide insights and revelations that go beyond our limited human comprehension. These divine insights can guide us, provide clarity, and offer a new perspective on our challenges, helping us to navigate through them with greater confidence and peace. Moreover, calling upon God in trouble is an act of surrender. It is an acknowledgement that we cannot rely solely on our own strength and understanding. When we pray, we are placing our trust in God's plan and timing, believing that He knows what is best for us. This surrender allows us to let go of our anxieties and fears, resting in the assurance that God is in control. It is through this act of faith that we experience the peace that surpasses all understanding, even in the midst of our troubles. In conclusion, Jeremiah 33:3 encourages us to call upon God as an essential expression of our faith and trust in Him. By doing so, we invite His power and wisdom into our lives, enabling us to face our challenges with a renewed sense of hope and strength. As we seek God in prayer, we open ourselves up to His divine revelations and guidance, allowing us to see beyond our immediate circumstances. Ultimately, calling upon God in times of trouble is an act of surrender, where we trust in His perfect plan and experience His peace and intervention in our lives. Number 3, God's readiness to respond. Isaiah 65:24 beautifully assures us, "Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear." This verse highlights God's proactive nature in responding to our needs, showcasing His deep love and care for us. God's readiness to answer, even before we call upon Him, signifies His intimate understanding of our hearts and circumstances. He is not distant or detached, but is always attuned to our needs, eager to provide help and comfort. This divine readiness to respond demonstrates that God is constantly watching over us. He knows our struggles and pains, even before we articulate them in prayer. This proactive nature of God reassures us that we are never alone in our trials. His presence and readiness to intervene are constant, reflecting His unwavering commitment to our well-being. It emphasizes that our prayers are not a means of informing God of our needs, but rather an opportunity for us to connect with Him and acknowledge His sovereignty. Isaiah 65:24 also emphasizes the immediacy of God's response. "While they are still speaking, I will hear," illustrates that God is not only aware of our prayers, but is actively listening and responding, even as we utter them. This immediate response showcases His compassion and eagerness to support us. It reminds us that God's timing is perfect, and His help comes precisely when we need it, reinforcing our trust in His divine provision and care. Furthermore, God's readiness to respond, even before we call upon Him, highlights His omniscience and omnipresence. He knows our needs, desires, and challenges intimately. This divine attribute assures us that nothing escapes His notice, and He is always prepared to act on our behalf. It provides a profound sense of security, knowing that our Heavenly Father is already at work, orchestrating solutions and blessings for us, even before we voice our concerns. In conclusion, Isaiah 65:24 reveals the depth of God's love and care through His proactive readiness to respond to our needs. This verse reassures us that God is always attentive to our prayers, understanding our hearts even before we express them. His immediate response while we are still speaking demonstrates His compassion and perfect timing. Ultimately, God's readiness to intervene highlights His omniscience and omnipresence, providing us with the confidence and peace that we are never alone in our journey, and that our loving Father is always by our side, ready to help and guide us. Number 4, trusting in God's deliverance. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." This profound truth calls us to trust in God's deliverance, even when it comes in ways we do not understand. God's methods are higher than our own, surpassing our human logic and expectations. By embracing this truth, we can find peace in knowing that God's plans are always for our ultimate good, even when they seem mysterious or unconventional. Trusting in God's deliverance means relinquishing our need to control the outcome and fully surrendering to His divine wisdom. Often, we have preconceived notions of how God should answer our prayers or intervene in our circumstances. However, Isaiah 55:8-9 teaches us that God's ways are far beyond our comprehension. His deliverance may come through unexpected people, situations, or timing, but it is always perfect and purposeful. Embracing this perspective frees us from the burden of trying to figure everything out and allows us to rest in God's sovereign plan. One of the greatest challenges in trusting God's deliverance is letting go of our limited understanding. We may face situations where the path ahead seems unclear or where God's ways appear perplexing. Yet, it is in these moments that our faith is truly tested and refined. By remembering that God's thoughts are higher than ours, we can find comfort and assurance that He is working all things together for our good. Our trust in His deliverance becomes an act of worship, acknowledging His greatness and surrendering to His perfect will. Moreover, trusting in God's deliverance requires patience and perseverance. Sometimes, God's deliverance does not come immediately or in the way we expect. We may endure periods of waiting or experience answers that differ from our desires. Yet, in these times, we can hold fast to the promise of Isaiah 55:8-9. God's timing and methods are always right, and He sees the bigger picture that we cannot. Our trust in His deliverance grows as we witness His faithfulness and experience His peace, even amidst uncertainty. In conclusion, Isaiah 55:8-9 calls us to trust in God's deliverance, recognizing that His ways are higher than our own. This trust involves surrendering our need for control and embracing God's divine wisdom, even when it surpasses our understanding. By letting go of our limited perspectives and resting in God's sovereign plan, we find peace and assurance in His perfect deliverance. Our faith is strengthened through patience and perseverance as we witness the faithfulness of our loving Father, who always works for our ultimate good. Number 5. God's strength in our weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9 provides a profound insight into how God's deliverance often manifests in our lives. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. This powerful verse reveals that God's strength is most evident when we are at our weakest. In our moments of vulnerability and insufficiency, God's grace shines through, demonstrating His power and sufficiency. Understanding this truth helps us to see our weaknesses not as liabilities, but as opportunities for God to work mightily in and through us. Recognizing God's strength in our weakness requires a shift in perspective. Society often values self-reliance and personal strength, but God's kingdom operates on a different principle. When we acknowledge our limitations and depend on God, we make room for His power to be displayed. Our weaknesses become a stage for God's glory, as He accomplishes what we could never achieve on our own. This realization transforms our attitude towards challenges, allowing us to face them with confidence, knowing that God's power is at work. God's grace, as mentioned in 2 Corinthians 12:9, is a sustaining force that carries us through our trials. It is not merely a passive gift, but an active, empowering presence. When we are weak, God's grace becomes our strength, enabling us to endure and overcome. His power is not just sufficient, it is perfect, completing what is lacking in us. This divine strength is a testament to God's faithfulness and His intimate involvement in our lives, assuring us that we are never alone in our struggles. Moreover, embracing our weaknesses allows us to experience the fullness of God's deliverance. Instead of striving to be self-sufficient, we learn to lean on God and trust in His ability to see us through. Our weaknesses become opportunities for God to intervene, providing solutions and breakthroughs that surpass our human capabilities. This dependence on God fosters a deeper relationship with Him. As we witness firsthand His power made perfect in our lives, it also serves as a powerful testimony to others of God's ability to work through the most unlikely circumstances. In conclusion, 2 Corinthians 12:9 teaches us that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. Embracing this truth transforms our perspective on challenges, allowing us to see them as opportunities for God's power to be displayed. By relying on God's grace, we find strength in our vulnerabilities and experience His deliverance in profound ways. This understanding deepens our faith and trust in God, reminding us that His power is sufficient and perfect, even in our weakest moments. Number 6. Moving forward in faith. Exodus 14:15 presents a powerful moment in the history of Israel's journey. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on." This verse captures a critical juncture where the Israelites, trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's advancing army, are commanded by God to move forward in faith. It's a call to action, an encouragement to trust in God's plan, even when the way ahead seems impossible. This directive to move forward in faith teaches us an essential lesson about the nature of faith and obedience. Taking steps of faith often requires us to act before we see the full picture. Just as the Israelites had to step towards the Red Sea before it parted, we are called to move forward in obedience, trusting that God will make a way. This forward movement signifies our trust in God's promises and His faithfulness. It's an act of surrender, where we acknowledge that our understanding is limited, but God's plans are perfect. By moving forward, we demonstrate our belief that God is with us and that He will guide us through any obstacle. Faith is not passive, it requires action. In moments of uncertainty, God often calls us to take tangible steps towards the future He has promised. This might mean pursuing a new direction, making a difficult decision, or stepping out of our comfort zone. When we move forward in faith, we activate God's promises in our lives. Our obedience becomes the conduit through which God's power and provision flow. This proactive stance of faith is crucial in experiencing the fullness of God's deliverance and blessings. God's command to move on also underscores the importance of not remaining stagnant in our faith journey. Dwelling in fear or uncertainty can paralyze us, preventing us from experiencing the breakthroughs God has in store. By choosing to move forward, we break free from the chains of doubt and step into the divine path God has laid out for us. This forward momentum builds our faith muscles, making us more resilient and prepared for future challenges. It's in these moments of action that our faith is stretched and strengthened. In conclusion, Exodus 14:15 teaches us the importance of moving forward in faith. It's a call to trust God's guidance and take steps of obedience, even when the path ahead is unclear. By acting on our faith, we open ourselves to God's miraculous interventions and His perfect plans. This proactive approach to faith encourages us to embrace the unknown with confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. As we move forward in faith, we not only experience God's deliverance, but also grow in our... Number 7. Glorifying God through testimony. Psalm 40:2-3 vividly describes a moment of divine rescue. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. This powerful imagery of God's deliverance highlights not only His saving grace, but also the transformation that follows. When God intervenes in our lives, He doesn't just pull us out of our troubles. He places us on solid ground, providing stability and security. This act of deliverance is not just for our benefit, but is also an opportunity to glorify God and inspire others through our testimony. Sharing our experiences of God's deliverance is a vital aspect of our faith journey. Our testimonies serve as living proof of God's power and faithfulness. When we speak about how God lifted us from the depths and placed us on solid ground, we give Him the glory He deserves. These personal stories of God's intervention can be a beacon of hope for others who are going through similar struggles. They remind us and those around us that God is actively working in our lives, ready to rescue and restore us. Testimonies have the unique ability to resonate deeply with others because they are tangible evidence of God's love and power. Hearing about someone's real-life experience can often be more impactful than abstract teachings. When we share how God delivered us, we provide concrete examples of His grace and mercy. These stories can strengthen the faith of others, encouraging them to trust in God's promises and to seek His help in their own times of trouble. Moreover, glorifying God through our testimonies aligns with our purpose as believers. We are called to be witnesses of His goodness and to proclaim His deeds. By sharing our stories, we fulfill this calling, spreading the message of God's love and power to a world in need. Our testimonies can open doors for deeper conversations about faith and can be a powerful tool for evangelism. They remind others that God's miracles are not confined to biblical times, but are happening today in the lives of ordinary people. In conclusion, Psalm 42:3 teaches us the importance of glorifying God through our testimonies. By sharing how God has delivered us, we honor Him and inspire others. Our testimonies serve as a testament to God's faithfulness and power, providing hope and encouragement to those who hear them. As we speak of God's deeds, we not only strengthen our own faith, but also contribute to the faith journeys of others, fostering a community that recognizes and celebrates God's active presence in our lives. Number 8, living a life reflecting God's work. Matthew 5:16 urges us with these words, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This verse encapsulates the essence of living a life that reflects God's transformative power. As followers of Christ, we are called not only to receive God's deliverance, but also to embody it in our daily lives. Our actions and attitudes should radiate the love, grace, and truth that we have experienced through God's work in our lives. Living a life that reflects God's work begins with a deep personal relationship with Him. When we truly understand and experience God's saving grace, it naturally influences how we live and interact with others. Our lives become testimonies of His faithfulness and goodness, drawing others to Him through our words and actions. As we allow God to transform us from within, His light shines through us, illuminating the darkness and pointing others toward Him. Reflecting God's work means embracing His values and principles in every aspect of our lives. It involves demonstrating compassion, forgiveness, humility, and integrity in our relationships and daily interactions. When others see us responding to challenges with faith and trust in God, they witness firsthand the power of His presence in our lives. Our consistent commitment to living according to God's Word becomes a powerful testament to His transformative power and love. Furthermore, living a life that reflects God's work requires us to be intentional about our choices and priorities. It means seeking His guidance in decision-making, prioritizing spiritual growth, and aligning our goals with His kingdom purposes. As we yield to God's leading, He equips us with the wisdom and strength to navigate life's challenges and opportunities in ways that honor Him. Our lives become a canvas upon which God paints His grace and mercy, inviting others to experience His love and salvation. In summary, Matthew 5:16 reminds us that our lives are meant to glorify God by reflecting His transformative work. By allowing His light to shine through us, we bear witness to His power and goodness. As we live out our faith in practical ways, we become living testimonies of God's redeeming love, drawing others closer to Him. May we continually strive to let our lives be a reflection of God's work, so that others may see His glory and be inspired to follow Him wholeheartedly. Conclusion. In conclusion, as we reflect on God's promises of deliverance, His readiness to respond to our calls, and His strength made perfect in our weaknesses, we are reminded of His constant presence and transformative power in our lives. Moving forward in faith, glorifying God through our testimonies, and living lives that reflect His work are essential aspects of our Christian journey. Let us continue to trust in His unfailing love, allowing His light to shine through us, so that others may see His goodness and be drawn to His grace. May our lives continually glorify our Father in heaven, reflecting His love and leading others to experience His saving power.